So in October 2014, Elon Musk walked into a room at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and said something that made the whole crowd go quiet. He said, "We are summoning a demon." He was talking about AI. And almost everybody in that room thought he was being dramatic. This was 2014. Nobody had ChatGPT yet. Nobody had seen an AI write a poem, or pass a law school exam, or beat a human at chess in real time on YouTube. The iPhone 6 had just come out, and people were still amazed that Siri could set a timer. And here is Elon Musk standing at MIT telling students that AI is the biggest threat to human civilization ever. People laughed. Tech bloggers wrote pieces about how he was being silly. Google's own engineers rolled their eyes. But here is the thing about that moment. He was right, not about every single thing, not about every date or every deadline. But the big stuff, the stuff that really mattered, he saw it coming when almost nobody else did. And this video is about the 7 times that actually happened. 7 real things he said out loud in public, on stages, in interviews, in tweets, that everybody thought were crazy at the time but turned out to be true. Let's start with the first one. In August 2014, Elon Musk posted on Twitter, which at the time was just a normal website he didn't own yet. And he wrote that AI is potentially more dangerous than nuclear bombs. Nuclear bombs, the things that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan in 1945 and scared the whole world for decades after. He put AI in the same sentence as that. And in 2014, the most advanced AI most people had ever interacted with was a Google autocomplete suggestion or maybe a robot vacuum from iRobot that bumped into your furniture. People thought he had lost his mind, but then think about what happened after. By 2023, the US government, the European Parliament in Brussels, the United Nations in New York, the UK government in London, the leaders of China and France and Japan all started treating AI safety like it was one of the most urgent things on Earth. The EU passed the AI Act, which is the first ever law in the world specifically about controlling AI. And they did it because they were scared. The US held Senate hearings in Washington, D.C., where Sam Altman from OpenAI sat in front of senators and said, yes, this technology could be very dangerous. Geoffrey Hinton, the man often called the godfather of AI, won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2024, and the first thing he did after was say he was scared of what he had built. Geoffrey Hinton worked at Google for years, and when he left Google, he said one of the reasons was he wanted to be able to speak freely about AI danger without embarrassing his employer. All of that happened because the thing Elon Musk was screaming about in 2014 turned out to be something the whole world eventually had to take seriously. One man admits saying, "We are summoning a demon." The whole world 10 years later agreeing he had a point. That is prediction number 1. Now here is prediction number 2, and this one is about who would end up controlling AI and why that was scary. Back in 2015, when Musk and Sam Altman and a group of researchers sat in a San Francisco hotel and started OpenAI, one of Musk's biggest fears was that one company would end up owning all the best AI in the world. He talked about this constantly. He was specifically scared of Google. At the time, Google had just bought a company called DeepMind in London for around $500 million, and DeepMind had some of the best AI researchers on the planet. Musk tried to stop that deal. He literally called DeepMind's founder Demis Hassabis and tried to talk him out of selling to Google. It didn't work. And so Musk kept warning anyone who would listen that if one company controls AI, it is like one company controlling all the nuclear weapons. He said it on podcasts, he said it on Twitter, he said it in interviews to Rolling Stone magazine and to Vanity Fair magazine. Almost nobody agreed with him. The general feeling in Silicon Valley in 2015 was that Google and Facebook and Microsoft were good companies staffed by smart people who would figure it out fine. But then something started happening. By 2022 and 2023, it became clear that a tiny number of companies really did control most of the AI in the world. Microsoft bought a huge stake in OpenAI and put ChatGPT inside Bing and inside Microsoft Word and inside Microsoft Teams and inside GitHub Copilot, which millions of software engineers used every day. Google had Gemini inside Google Search and inside Gmail and inside Google Docs and inside YouTube. Meta had Llama running inside Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. Amazon had AI inside Oz, which is the system that runs a huge chunk of the entire internet. Literally the water and electricity of the internet was now controlled by the same 4 or 5 companies who also controlled the most powerful AI. Regulators in Brussels started panicking about this exact thing and passed laws trying to stop it. Senator Amy Klobuchar in Washington, D.C. pushed bills about it. The exact nightmare Musk described in 2015 was the exact thing government after government spent years trying to figure out how to fix. He saw it first. That is prediction number 2. Now, prediction number 3 is the one that feels the most personal because it touched a lot of real people's real lives. In 2017, Elon Musk stood in front of a room full of American governors at the National Governors Association meeting in Providence, Rhode Island, and he said robots will do everything better than us. He said a robot will be able to do your job better than you. The governors laughed. One of them, Brian Sandoval from Nevada, was grinning when he asked the question. And Musk said it completely straight-faced. No jobs will be safe, he said. And in 2017, that seemed absurd, because the robots that existed were very good at very specific things and very bad at anything else. A robot on a Toyota factory floor in Japan could put the same bolt in the same hole 10,000 times a day, but it could not write a cover letter or read a patient's face or explain a legal document. So when Musk said all jobs, people thought he was just being dramatic again. But then, in 2022, ChatGPT launched, and within 6 months, people were using it to write cover letters and legal documents and marketing emails and code and medical summaries and college essays and scripts and songs. In 2023, Goldman Sachs, the famous bank on Wall Street in New York City, published a report that said AI could affect 300 million full-time jobs around the world. 300 million. IBM, the giant company that has been making computers since before most people's grandparents were born, announced it would pause hiring for jobs that AI could do, and the CEO Arvind Krishna said that could affect 700-800 jobs just at IBM alone. The consulting giant McKinsey published research saying 12 million Americans might need to change careers by 2030 because of AI. BT Group in the UK said it would cut 55,000 jobs partly because of AI. Duolingo, the language learning app that millions of people use on their phone, laid off contractors and said AI was the reason. Dropbox, the file-sharing company, laid off 500 people and said AI was the reason. The New York Times, one of the most famous newspapers in the world, ran story after story about writers and artists and programmers and lawyers, all worried that AI was coming for their work. In 2017, people laughed at Elon Musk in a room in Providence, Rhode Island. By 2024, the thing he said was on the front page of every major newspaper on Earth. That is prediction number 3. Now prediction number 4 is one that almost nobody remembers he made, and it is one of the wildest ones. In 2017, Musk posted on Twitter that the race between countries to build the best AI would probably cause World War III. He said this in response to a comment that Russian President Vladimir Putin had made, where Putin said that whoever controls AI will control the world. And Musk replied on Twitter that competition between nations over AI supremacy would most likely be the cause of the next world war. Not nuclear weapons, not oil, AI, and in 2017 that sounded like science fiction. But by 2024 and 2025, the US government put massive export controls on NVIDIA chips, specifically the H100 and the H200 chips, which are the main things used to build powerful AI. The US said China cannot buy these chips, and China started pouring billions of dollars into building its own chips to get around that rule. The Chinese company Huawei started working on chips called the Ascend 910B to compete with NVIDIA. DeepSeek, a Chinese AI company almost nobody had heard of, released a model in January 2025 that was as good as ChatGPT, and it caused NVIDIA's stock to drop almost 17% in one day, which was the biggest single-day market value loss for any company in U.S. stock market history. The U.S. Senate started emergency hearings. The White House started talking about AI like it was a national security emergency on the same level as a military conflict. The Pentagon started funding AI projects directly. NATO and Brussels started talking about AI in warfare. Israel used AI systems to help identify targets in Gaza, and the whole world argued about whether that was legal. Drone warfare in Ukraine became partly AI-assisted, and military analysts said it was changing the nature of war. Musk said in 2017 that AI would cause a world war. By 2025, every major military on Earth was pouring money into AI weapons, and every major government was treating AI competition like a kind of war already happening. Not the shooting kind, the other kind, the kind that happens before the shooting starts. That is prediction number 4. Now, prediction number 5 is the one that feels the most futuristic, and it is about something called a brain chip. In 2016, Elon Musk started a company called Neuralink in San Francisco, and the idea was wild. You put a small computer chip directly into a human brain. The chip reads the signals your brain makes and sends them to a machine. And the machine can then understand what you were thinking of doing. He said this would let paralyzed people control computers with their thoughts. He said it would let blind people see again using cameras connected to their brain. He said eventually it could let humans keep up with AI by essentially merging with computers. This sounded like a Marvel movie. It sounded like something from the X-Men comics, specifically Professor X's Cerebro machine in the X-Men films. Medical experts were skeptical. Ethicists were scared. Most people just kind of laughed and said, "Sure, okay, Elon." But then on January 28, 2024, a man named Noland Arbaugh, who had been paralyzed from the shoulders down after a diving accident, became the first human being in history to have a Neuralink chip put in his brain. And a few weeks later, he was on YouTube playing the strategy game Civilization, which is a complex computer game using only his thoughts. He was moving the cursor on the screen just by thinking about moving it. He had not been able to use his hands for years, and now he was playing a computer game with his mind. He said on X that it was like using the Force from Star Wars. Noland Arbaugh, who could not move his hands, played Civilization with his brain because Elon Musk started a company to put a chip in people's heads. And by 2025, Neuralink had more patients and was expanding its trials with FDA approval, which is the U.S. government agency that decides what medical treatments are allowed. That is prediction number 5. Now, prediction number 6 is one he made very early, and it is probably the scariest one. In around 2014 and 2015, Musk kept warning that AI could be used to flood the internet with fake stuff. He specifically said chatbots could be used to spread misinformation on Twitter and other platforms, and that the problem would be orders of magnitude worse than what humans could do alone. He said it in the context of worrying about what would happen to Twitter itself. He was worried that bots, which are fake computer-run accounts, would take over social media and fill it with lies faster than any human could. And in 2014, Twitter was just a fun website people used to share jokes and news. Nobody thought it would become a battleground for AI-generated fake information. But then in 2022 and 2023, after ChatGPT launched, fake AI-generated news articles started appearing everywhere. Deep fake videos where AI made it look like politicians were saying things they never said started spreading on YouTube and Facebook. The U.S. government's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is a real department in Washington, D.C., started warning about AI-generated disinformation before every major election. Before the 2024 U.S. presidential election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, researchers found thousands of AI-generated fake news articles and fake social media accounts pushing made-up stories. In Slovakia, before their election, a fake audio recording that sounded like a politician talking about buying votes spread all over WhatsApp and Messenger. AI made it. In the UK, fake AI-generated videos about politicians spread on TikTok before their general election in 2024. The BBC, The Guardian, The New York Times, Reuters all published major investigations into AI misinformation. The World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland said in 2024 that AI-generated misinformation was one of the biggest global risks of that year. All of it was exactly what Musk described in 2015 when he said chatbots could flood platforms with disinformation at a scale humans simply could not match. He was right about this one so completely that it is honestly a little uncomfortable. That is prediction number 6. And now prediction number 7 is the biggest one of all, and it is the one we are still living through right now. In 2023, Musk stood next to UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at a big AI safety conference at Bletchley Park in England, which is the same place where Alan Turing and his team broke the Nazi Enigma code in World War II. And he said AI is the most disruptive force in all of human history. He said it would be more disruptive than the invention of fire, more disruptive than the wheel, more disruptive than the internet. He said AI is the most transformative technology that has ever existed. And in 2023, there were still serious people who thought AI was just a cool toy. Just a smarter autocomplete, just a thing you could use to write a birthday card faster. But look at what has happened. By 2025, Goldman Sachs estimated that AI would add $7 trillion to the global economy over the next decade. $7 trillion. NVIDIA, the chip company in Santa Clara, California, whose chips power almost all AI, became the most valuable company in the world for a period in 2024, with a market cap above $3 trillion, passing Apple and Microsoft. Microsoft put AI into every single product it sells, from the Xbox to Windows to Word to Excel to Teams. Google put AI into Google Search and changed how the search engine that 5 billion people use every day actually works for the first time in over 20 years. Apple put AI called Apple Intelligence into the iPhone 16. Amazon put AI into Alexa and into Oz. Samsung, the South Korean electronics company, put AI into their Galaxy phones. Hospitals started using AI to read X-rays and MRI scans. The Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota started using AI to help diagnose heart conditions. Law firms started using AI to review contracts. Schools started rewriting their whole policies on homework because AI could do homework. The College Board, which runs the SAT test that American high school students take to get into college, had to rethink how the SAT worked because AI could pass it with a very high score. The legal exam called the bar exam that lawyers have to pass in the US, AI passed that. The medical licensing exam called the USML that doctors have to pass, AI passed that. The CFA exam for financial analysts, AI passed that. Every professional exam that existed for decades to prove a human was qualified to do a job, AI started passing. In January 2025, a Chinese AI company nobody had heard of, called DeepSeek, released a model that was as powerful as anything OpenAI had built, and did it for a fraction of the cost, and the financial markets lost $1 trillion of value in one day because investors realized everything. They thought they knew about the AI race might be wrong. $1 trillion gone in one day because of one AI company releasing one model. That is how fast this thing moves. That is how much it matters. And Elon Musk was standing on a stage in England in 2023 saying this is the most disruptive thing in human history, and people were still writing articles about whether he was exaggerating. He was not exaggerating. Nobody is exaggerating anymore. So here is the thing about all 7 of these predictions. Musk got a lot wrong. He said Tesla would have fully self-driving cars by 2017, and it is still not fully self-driving in 2026. He said 1 million robotaxis would be on American roads by 2020, and that did not happen. He said he would put humans on Mars by 2024, and that did not happen either. His timeline record is honestly pretty bad. Wired magazine published an analysis in 2025 that said his timeline predictions overshoot reality by 2 to 5 times on average. So he is not a prophet. He is not always right. But on the big things, the shape of the future, the direction things were heading, the stuff that people laughed at him for saying, he was seeing something real. He saw that AI would be dangerous before the scientists were scared. He saw that one company owning AI would be a problem before the government was scared. He saw that jobs would get taken before the workers were scared. He saw that countries would fight over AI before the militaries were scared. He saw that a chip in your brain was possible before the doctors believed it. He saw that AI would flood the internet with fake things before the journalists were scared. And he saw that AI would change literally everything before almost anyone else believed it would change anything at all. 7 things. 7 times a guy stood up in public and said something that made people roll their eyes. 7 times the world caught up to him later and realized he had a point. That is the story. And the reason it matters is not because Elon Musk is always right. He is not. The reason it matters is because there is probably something he is saying right now that everyone is laughing at that will turn out to be true in 10 years. And nobody knows which thing that is. That is the part that should keep you up at night. Not the past predictions. The next ones.